Hello, everyone. This is Justin Smythe from nextbigtrade.com. This is your weekly sector review for December 15th, 2023. Starting out with bots, the artificial intelligence ETF, you can see that volume was above average to the upside for the fifth consecutive week in this ETF, and there was more stage two breakouts in this sector. So overall, this is still a powerful leading sector in the markets. There's some recent breakouts that have consolidated for a few weeks that look like they're ready to continue to the upside. And a large majority of this sector has moved back into stage two here. So besides the cryptocurrency stocks, this is one of the strongest leading sectors in the market. And I think it'll continue to be so as we head into 2024, as obviously there's been a ton of activity in this sector in 2023, but it really hasn't had the chance to really bloom with a bull market behind it. And that's really what's kind of happening as we head into 2024. Next, the semiconductors are also following through this week, up over 7% for the week. Some of the larger cap leaders like AVGO, AMD, Intel, all had very positive weeks. Semiconductors are now trading with no overhead resistance and are trading at new all-time highs as well. And the sector leader, NVIDIA, looks like it's getting ready to, finally kind of start moving out and breaking out of its sideways consolidation that's occurred over multiple months as well. So this sector is acting extremely well, and you can see here, really it's finally breaking out of this consolidation that occurred coming out of the May and June rally even. So we're just getting started with this rally here in the semiconductors. Cryptocurrency stocks, with Bitcoin kind of in need for a short-term pullback, there was some high volume selling in these stocks earlier in the week, but then after the Fed, the volume came roaring back into this sector. And, out of all the sectors right now, the most powerful volume has been in the cryptocurrency stocks. So again, there's a lot of these are still early in a stage two breakout as well. So there's some really interesting action going on here, some potential powerful moves as we move into 2024. And especially with this next sector that I want to talk about more in depth, because I think, as I indicated in the newsletter, this is really going to influence the markets heading into 2024, and that's the US dollar. Now, the US dollar has really been a nemesis for the stock market for, almost or about 2 years now, where the US dollar went into a stage two uptrend in the middle of 2021. And this persisted all the way through 2022, where stocks were in a bear market. The dollar was basically the asset that was the safe haven and that was benefiting from the bear market in stocks and in bonds. And the dollar had a powerful uptrend. Then when the dollar started topping out in October 2022, it moved into stage three and basically has been there ever since. It was kind of trending lower below the 30-week moving average, but then it kind of flattened out, tried to have a rally to the upside towards the tail end of 2023. This ended up being the end of the bond bear market, and then now we're rolling over and potentially starting to move into stage four here. So this is really where, if the US dollar does continue to deteriorate here, move into stage four, this is going to have huge ramifications for the rest of the stock market, and in particular for foreign stocks. Bitcoin and precious metals are three asset classes that would definitely benefit from a bearish US dollar. Again, the US dollar hasn't really been in a downtrending market for a couple of years now. So this would be a big sea change for the market to see the US dollar start to roll over here. And if you look at the US dollar stretching back for the last 10 years, every time the US dollar was in a stage four downtrend, either gold or Bitcoin had a monster rally. If you go back to 2016, the precious metals had a major rally in early 2016 that led into about the middle of 2016, where the metals and the mining stocks went ballistic to the upside, really. In 2017 was the year of Bitcoin, where Bitcoin went into its first euphoric run, went, I think, to around 20,000 before it had a major pullback. In 2020, it was the precious metals again. They had a major rally coming out of the COVID lows. Gold and silver had massive rallies, and then what happened was in 2021, Bitcoin really took over, and the alternative cryptocurrencies took over and had massive rallies as well. So you had kind of a back-to-back precious metals, then Bitcoin, led the markets higher. So now what's happening again, we had this minor little stage four downtrend in the US dollar. The precious metals couldn't really get going. Bitcoin has gotten going recently, and then now we're potentially rolling over here into stage four for another bear move lower in the dollar, which again could have huge ramifications for these alternative assets. And the one other thing to look at with this is that the US dollar basically tried to break out of a large trading range going back multiple years, and basically it did have a breakout, but then goes back and retests the top end of the range. And if we fall through here, then we're basically saying, we basically went through a topping process and a little bit of a failed breakout here. And then now we're just rolling over and potentially moving down into a longer term downtrend. So very interesting setup as we head into 2024, and especially where the precious metals have been. They've been kind of a laggard asset for a couple of years now. They're definitely in position to take advantage of this new setup in the markets. Now, turning to the precious metals, gold and silver did have the sharp pullback 2 weeks ago where they couldn't really follow through on the breakout, but then they did bounce this week on heavier volume off the 10-week moving average for gold. Silver bounced around the 30-week moving average. Again, the volume is actually some of the better volume that we've seen since March of this year. And again, what we want to see really here is more follow-on volume, and for this to turn around now that the dollar is starting to roll over. And a couple interesting developments in platinum and palladium. These assets had been really, stuck in a grind lower, but platinum had massive volume this week. Looks like it might be ready to set up to break out into stage two and join gold and silver. And then palladium as well, massive bear market here, but massive volume coming in. You can see it out of the last 5 weeks. We've got a cluster of volume at the end of a stage four downtrend. So we know this could indicate basically a transition into stage two. So if we get all four precious metals back into an uptrend, that would be basically something that hasn't happened for, a decent period of time now. And turning to the mining stocks, if you look at GDX, did its best volume since March this week, and the silver mining ETF actually did its best volume of the year, and going back a couple years. So, and you've got a cluster of volume in the silver mining ETF as well. So I know precious metals have been a tough market for 2023. There's been a lot of failed moves higher. Even I thought there was going to be a couple of breakouts that didn't happen, but we're definitely set up here to break out again. And a lot of people are probably frustrated with this market. So it's probably a good time for it to really break out and kind of shock the markets. So very interesting asset class to watch as we head into 2024. Finally, as I discussed in the newsletter, oversold and beat up assets are one of the areas of the market that tends to outperform early in a new year. And basically, what happens is tax loss selling can beat down an asset towards the end of the year, and then all of a sudden it turns around sharply as the new year starts and gets bid back up. We saw that happen with cryptocurrency this year and with large cap tech, actually. Both were beaten down heading into 2023. Both had monster years in 2024. Solar is actually one of the sectors that was crushed at the end of 2024 23 that could be set up to have a big year, or at least a big snapback rally in early 2024. And one of the things that happened this week with solar was massive volume coming into the sector. So definitely a sector to watch as we head into 2024 as well. One of the most beaten down sectors, and it's completing a stage two breakout against the 10-week moving average here. So definitely something to keep an eye on for a snapback rally back to resistance, at least as we head into 2024.